Over the years, humans have created a number of deadly weapons and have done a bunch of dangerous tests on humans and our Earth. So far, they haven't destroyed the world, but some experiments were close to doing so. From a bomb that can cause tsunamis to weapons that can start biological warfare. Let's talk about this and more only in today's video. Starting off this countdown, we have Project Mercury and Volcano. This experiment makes you wonder, what on earth were they thinking? So from 1987 to 1992, the Russian military were running experiments for a tectonic weapon. Basically, the experiments would involve detonating nuclear weapons underground so that they would disturb the Earth's tectonic plates and electromagnetic fields, which they hoped would cause earthquakes and volcanoes. I don't know about you, but messing with the tectonic plates could have ended very badly. In the end, they only ran 4 experiments before it was banned. Like, dude, imagine they succeeded and created a bunch of earthquakes and messed up our electromagnetic fields. That would have been extremely disastrous. Coming in at number 9, we have Weaponizing the Plague. In 14th century Europe, the plague took the lives of up to 60% of the population. And the government was all like, let's use these victims for biological attacks. It started with gathering the deceased and flinging the infected corpses or their feces over castle walls using a catapult. From there, the military was making plans to load warheads with the bubonic plague, which would then be time released. Honestly, any form of biological warfare is a really bad idea. Seeing how fast the current pandemic spread, imagine people fighting with bacteria and germs. That would spread hella fast and kill millions. In our 8th spot, we have dimethylmercury. Dimethylmercury is a very dangerous and toxic chemical compound, so it's quite concerning when people start to experiment with it. Take the case with chemist Karen Wetterhahn, for example. In the late 90s, Karen was studying the effects that dimethylmercury had on living organisms. While running some tests, she dropped a bit of the chemical onto her glove. What she didn't know is that it can easily permeate through latex gloves within 15 seconds. And even a small drop is enough to cause mercury poisoning. Sadly, that's what happened, and she ended up slipping into a coma before passing away 10 months later. Although Karen's experiments weren't going to affect the world, any experiments with this compound should be feared. It could kill or sicken people within seconds. In our 7th spot, we have the Large Hadron Super Collider. With a name like that, it just sounds intimidating, like Super Collider. So this was the largest particle collider in the world. It was built between 1998 to 2008 and took 10,000 scientists and engineers from over 100 countries to build. It ended up costing more than $9 billion to make. Now you might be wondering, what does this massive machine do? Well, it, and I quote, allows the protons to produce the microscopic size of the black hole, but they evaporate because of their small size. Scientists were actually scared of the creation of this thing. They thought that this experiment could end the world. Like, some thought it would create a big black hole that would just take in the Earth. Thankfully, it hasn't happened yet, but it has been blamed for causing earthquakes and pulling asteroids towards Earth. In our 6th spot, we have KOLA super deep borehole. In 1970, the Soviets started drilling a hole into the crust of the Earth. They wanted to drill as deep as they possibly could. By 1994, they had made a hole 12 kilometers deep in the Kola Peninsula. But at that point, they had to stop. They couldn't go any further because it was getting extremely hot. Down there, it was 356 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. Now, this experiment brought up a lot of controversy. People were freaking out, thinking that the hole was going to release demons from the center of the Earth. Others feared that it would create earthquakes or stir up other natural disasters. Like, seriously, we've never dug deep into our Earth's crust, so we don't know what could happen. Thankfully, the whole site has been closed. Now let's just focus on energy on productive things, okay? No more drilling. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Trinity test. In July of 1945, America detonated its very first nuclear device. This was given the name the Trinity test. This all happened during World War II when countries were madly rushing to gain military advantage. The Manhattan Project, which was a code name, oversaw the development of the atomic weapons during this time. The first test was on July 16th. They detonated the weapon in a New Mexico desert. Apparently, the bomb exploded with power equivalent to around 21,000 tons of TNT. Hell, that could have gone extremely wrong. And there were a bunch of concerned individuals who were scared that the explosion would cause the end of the world or destroy all of New Mexico. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Coming in at number 4, we have the infected mosquitoes. During the Cold War, the US military was testing biological warfare. In 1957, they used citizens in Georgia, Savannah, and Avon Park in Florida as their test subjects. Basically, they would infect mosquitoes with diseases and then release them to see how they would infect the citizens. Well, within a day, the mosquitoes had spread a distance of between 1 and 2 miles and had bitten hundreds of people. In the end, thousands suffered from yellow fever, typhoid, encephalitis, and respiratory problems. Even a number of women were giving birth to stillborn babies. These were all blamed on the mosquitoes. There even was a number of deaths during this experiment. In our third spot, we have Unit 731. Unit 731 was a biological warfare unit during the Second Sino-Japanese War. Well, in 1936, a man named Shiro Ishii built a huge compound where he would perform a number of disturbing experiments, including cutting pregnant women open to study them. And they got pregnant in the first place by one of Ishii's men. Another experiment consisted of having someone's limbs amputated and then reattaching them to other parts of their bodies. Others had parts of their bodies frozen and then thawed so that he could study what would happen if you didn't treat gangrene. Trust me, it gets worse. Other prisoners were his test subjects for grenades and flamethrowers, or he would inject others with diseases to study their effects. He even would test diseases on people to see how they would be used for biological warfare. That one posed the most risk to all of humanity had he actually created biological weapons. The list of experiments run on people there goes on and on though, it's very disturbing. In our second spot, we have the biological weapons attack. Back in the 1950s, the military sent a number of planes to spray bacteria and chemical powders all across the US and parts of Canada. Citizens saw that a bunch of low-flying planes were spraying something, so they began to worry. So the government lied and was like, oh, we're just testing ways to mask the cities in order to protect you, in case of attack. Lies. Now, one of the chemicals they used was zinc cadmium sulfide. It is highly toxic and can cause cancer. In 2012, sociology professor Lisa Martino-Taylor claimed that there was a spike in cancer rates that could be connected back to the chemicals, which she alleges were radioactive. And in our number 1 spot today, we have New Zealand tsunami bomb. Between 1944 to 1945, New Zealand was experimenting with the use of bombs to create artificial tsunamis. Right off the bat, sounds like a terrible idea. So they experimented with placing bombs so that when they went off, the explosive energy would affect the water and cause tsunamis or tidal waves. They called it Project SEAL. It was a highly secretive operation that they hoped would destroy enemy coastal defenses and even cities. They actually did almost 4,000 test explosions before ceasing the experiment. Which is good, because had they succeeded and it became mainstream, imagine how deadly that would have been. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these experiments creeped you out the most or fascinated you the most. And now, speaking of comments, let's move on to our comment shoutout portion. I'll be shouting out comments from the video Top 10 Alien Sightings Leaked by Government Officials. Ooh. A Wax59ST commented, I'll never forget in 1998, me and my mom was walking to the store. It was around 8:30 p.m. We saw a UFO. It had to be around 400 feet in the air, bunch of lights, and it was oval. Ooh, maybe you did see a UFO. Do you guys have any creepy UFO encounter stories? Let me know in the comments below. Alvin Wilker commented, are aliens real? Yes, I've seen a few. Human beings are not the kings of the universe. There you have it, folks. Aliens are real. Alvin believes that they're real. Honestly, maybe there has to be other species and life forms out there. And Gaming Wolf commented, if she said the evidence was destroyed, then how does she know about it? Because I'm an alien, guys. I'm an alien, that's why. Alright guys, that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see ya.